record to the cloud. So this is version 7, or sorry, meeting number 7, round 7 of globetrotter. And it doesn't seem like we have a whole lot here just yet, but let's see, we do have the ability to log in, I think, or sign up, or maybe we didn't. Maybe this is where we left off, I guess. Let's see, what kind of stuff is going on here? All right, so I guess this is where we left off. Let me double check our dev log. And did we write anything? Need to clean up? Okay, basic routes in the UI. All right, so let's dive in here and see what in the world's going on. So my page is loading. If I look in React, this I appear to be at my sort of root URL. I think that was it. If I go to /login, it'll work. But let's make sure that this actually makes sense. So let's start here. So my first task is going to be when I land on my home page, if I am logged in, then I should see my logout link. If I'm not logged in, then I should see login or sign up. So I shouldn't ever see both of these at the same screen. Does that sound like a reasonable place to start?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's see what in the world's going on. And right now, we're not really matching any of these 3 routes. So I would say let's build some kind of like a home page or something. So let's duplicate this. And maybe if we just have that, and maybe we could call this, I don't know, home, something like that. And let's see, that means we need a home component. Home components, home.js. And, ooh, I get to try out my new, let's see if I can remember this, RSC. Yeah, there we go. I just grabbed a new package today that allows me to do quick things like that, which is nice. So let me make this so you can actually read it. Cool. So I need this. Oh yeah, and it even puts what I need there. So hold on, let's see, _RSC, and I can just type home, and that's a nice quick way of building a stateless component. So let's see, basically what I want this thing to do is check and see if we're logged in. If we are logged in, then I'm going to render the logout button. And if we're, well, let's think about this for a second before I get too crazy. What I want to see is if when we hit this home route, we're going to check and see if we're logged in. If we are, we should see something else here, right? Some sort of a welcome page. If we're not, then I want to see login or sign up, which is kind of like the home or welcome page. So I feel like this might actually need some logic to it, something like that. We might need like a render here instead of component. So we do have current user here. So I might say something like render. And basically what I want to say is show me this home thing that I haven't quite built yet. In the case that we are not logged in, like maybe it's like a welcome or something like that. Otherwise, let's go to like my trips as a base, just for the sake of something to think about. So render can take a function expression rather than a component. And now what I want to do is open up this into an expression where I'm going to say, are we or are we not logged in? So this .props.current user is going to be my, whoops. Oh, I didn't grab state yet. Okay, so in order to get access to that current user, I need to write a map state to props function. And I think it makes sense that app, which is like kind of our parent component here, should know about whether someone's logged in or not. The piece of state I need is just my current user. Let's see, and we'll just call it current user. I really don't need, do I need my current user object, or do I just need to know if we're logged in? I think I just need to know if we're logged in. So I'm going to say logged in. And because it's JavaScript, I'll say, I think logged in is good enough. And I'm going to say logged in is the Boolean version of state.currentUser. Is everybody okay with that? I'm manipulating Redux state and getting exactly and only the thing I need, which is whether someone's logged in or not. And now I have that as a prop. And I could just say something like const logged in equals this dot props, and I'll deconstruct. I'll just grab exactly the piece of that prop that I want. And so now I can do something a little cleaner looking, like logged in. If we are, then I want to render, we'll say my trips. And otherwise, we're going to go to this home page that we just sort of talked about. And so I think that makes sense. Save this. And we may or may not want the props coming through, the router props. We'll have a look at that here in a little bit. Let's just do this first. Let's make sure that home is built. For now, we'll say welcome. Please log in or sign up, which means that I need those two. I need those two things, log in and sign up. So I need to import login from /login. Eventually, very soon, I'm going to break these up into more folders. Like this is starting to look a little unwieldy. I'll start saying, well, this is a functional one, this is a presentational, this is a container, that kind of thing. But for now, they're all together, living as a happy family. Let's see, where I seem to already have that. Where is this? Whoops. Where did that come from? App. Oh yeah, map state to props. Cool. So what I want to know right now is, where did this little thing come from? Well, home is not defined. That's because I didn't import it. And it's, yeah. Where is this? What is that thing? I forget. Login or sign up. Where do I have that showing up? Well, that's it. Is that in my nav bar? Which really does not belong in a nav bar, I'd say. Nav bar is more like, let's go around from one place to another, not like either login or sign up. So we'll say that nav bar, that's not, oh, those were just buttons. Those weren't even the components. All right, so that was kind of useless, I guess. That's okay, because now we're actually going to use them. So now we'll say something like, this is like going to be like what, I don't know, H2 or something. Any questions about what I'm doing right now? Any thoughts? Basically, I want to be able to sort of choose either log in or sign up. Okay. So how am I going to do that? Like what I basically want, I want to be able to click login or click sign up and then show one of those two things. So what does that mean that I need to do? I don't want
Have a ternary at a minimum.
A ternary, is that what you said?
Yeah, in the logic.
So home, well, okay, so what kind of a ternary, what do you mean by that?
Well, if you logged in, you're here. If you're not, you're there.
That's what I'm doing with app right now, right? If I am logged in, I want to show my trips. If I'm not logged in, I want to show home. And right now I'm not logged in, and this is actually home. I think that's good news, right? That means that this is working, maybe.
Well, you wouldn't want log out if you're not logged out.
Right. I need log out to go away, right? This doesn't need to be there right now. So we'll get rid of that for now. Just kind of cut it out of there for the time being. Basically, I want to take that and functionality and move it, right? Log out maybe should be in the nav bar once I'm logged in or something like that. But for now, I want this to, if I'm not logged in, and right now I'm not, I want to either click on that or click on this and then see either the login or the sign up page accordingly. So how do I handle that? How do I accomplish that task? What do I need to build inside of home? I'll split this to the right.
Either links or nav links.
Yeah, exactly. I need a link or a nav link. Which one do we want to use?
I don't know the difference.
Okay, so the difference is nav link gives us a little bit more functionality. Nav links are great for nav bars, where you're going to see those links kind of at all times. So if I want to see my trips or my attractions or new trip or whatever, I'm always seeing that menu and I can see which one's active at any given time, for example. These are just going to be links where I'm clicking on one and going somewhere and I'm not going to see it again. So I think link will be enough for me in this case. If we change our mind later, that's fine. From React router DOM. Cool. And so let's see, I want, thank you. My Rails server is lightning fast, as you can see from that delayed response. So let's see, link, or no, that's because I saved it and it re-rendered, that's right. Sorry, I'm giving my Rails server a hard time. Or link. Okay, so these are no longer going to be buttons, they're going to be links. Okay, what property does link need? Oops.
Two.
Okay, 2 takes a number of arguments, as some of us examined yesterday. The easiest one is a string, and I want to either be able to go to sign up or login. So let's do that. So let's say sign up or to login. Slash login. Okay, and this is about as simple as a link gets, and I should actually say sign up or log in. Okay, so now I should see hopefully 2 links instead of that text. Let's see, please sign up, please log in or sign up. Let's do them in the same order, it's bothering me. Sign up or log in. And what's missing there?
I have maybe this is a user experience thing, but wouldn't we want the welcome, please sign up or log in to be like the word sign up there to be a hyperlink?
That might actually be even nicer. Something like this. Like that?
Yeah.
Oops. I like that idea. Let's see if we're allowed to do that. Let's see if links can be children of headers. If not, we can just get rid of the header. And I think what I'm missing here might just be that I want value. Why is that not showing up? Is that what I need there? No? Why are these not showing up? Welcome, please sign up or log in. Anybody see my mistake? Why am I not seeing those? I'm still seeing an or. Didn't I get rid of the or? Am I not looking at this?
Not updated, Howard.
It's not updating?
There you go. There you go.
Oh. Okay, so I was right the first time. That's interesting. I wonder why it wasn't. I wonder why it did not update. That's weird. All right. Well, whatever. Log in. And it looks like very loudly and clearly those are just happy as can be being children of a header. Yeah, those links were loud and proud. Please sign up for login. That's almost shouting. Like that's too much. Let's take it down a notch here. Okay, a little calmer. We'll be a little more gentle with our please sign up or login. We can come back. Why is this not updating? This is very strange to me. What's going on, React? Okay, please sign up or login. Now I should be able to click that or click this. Something's funky, right? We are changing the URL. That's good news. But what's not happening?
It's not rendering your page.
Yeah, I'm stuck on home for some reason. And let's see. Let's see what happens if I move this down. No, now it's auto re-rendering. No one logged in. Okay, so we match that slash. If we click sign up, nothing. If we click log, nothing. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Is it still a nav bar?
So this is the home component that's showing, right? And when I click on one or the other, I should be routing to one of these things. We can even remove navbar for the time being. Like it's not really helpful to us at this very moment. But basically, we should be hitting one of these two routes. So interestingly, we seem to hit login, right? When we're hitting login. If I go to login or if I go to sign up, I'm getting what I want. But for some reason, that link is not doing what we want it to do.
Could you go to routes, back to the routes for a second?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's two ways to do it. If you call render, hold on. I think when you do component, then you have to pass it in. If you do render, then you, I don't remember. I know there's two ways to do it. I just don't remember which was which. One way when you pass it in, you just pass it in like you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not doing what I want it to. What's interesting to me, and I don't know what's going on here now. Let's see. So if I just go here and refresh my page, I should hit my home, which I do. And because I'm not logged in, by the way. So this is working, right? And now if I wonder if it's because I need to pass my props along. I don't think so. What if I did?
I think Sim may be right. Are sign up and login both components?
They are, right? They're both components. There's sign up and there's login. And that's, we're hitting them if I manually update the URL. For some reason, we're not seeming to hit them as a result of this link. So like, please sign up. Just kind of to maybe make this a little more readable. This is what we have going on right now. We've got two links changing where we're going. And when I click on one, we are adjusting the URL, but the router is not seeming to pick those up. Let's see what's going on here. Router, let's just click on one of these guys. And if we look at link, yeah, it seems to be exactly what I want. This is annoying. Route, exact path. Oh, what happened to my switch statement? Did I lose my switch? Did I never have a switch?
You didn't have a switch there.
All right, let's just grab a switch. A switch shouldn't be like the solution though. Switch should make things look better. But I don't think that's really was my issue.
Howard, since your server's slow, maybe pause after you click one and wait a few seconds.
Yeah, but it's not my server anymore. I'm on the front end. I'm on my React. This is just React, and we can see that it's immediately updating my URL.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, it's a good thought. The server's slow as can be. But let's see.
In which file did we wrap the router? An app? An index?
Yeah, app is router is wrapping app. Yep.
Okay.
Index.js. There's our router. Well, this is not. Let's see. Import link from React Router DOM. We go to sign up. we change our URL and React doesn't seem to be listening. But if I just go up there and reload, I'm going exactly where I want to be.
What if we try the render instead of component like you did on 26? So render that style.
Right. We'll try it. I'm down to try anything. So I'm loading my home. It's exactly what I want with 2 links in it. Sign up. And we're changing our URL. We can see our props change if we look in the right place. History. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if it's because, let's go back to my props and just make sure that these are getting the appropriate props. Is that possibly the problem? I don't think so. We'll see. Well, it's not exactly off to a great start on a Friday. Let's see here. What? Is it because of that? Maybe. No? Maybe. I don't think so. That would have been, let's see. No, it's not helping me at all.
Howard, you have double quotes in the link and single in your path. Does that matter?
No, that shouldn't matter. We'll try it.
Well, I mean, you have exact paths, so I don't know.
Yeah, but it's still going to read it as a string, one way or the other.
Yeah, just.
If I will be so happy if that's what it is. I'm curious as to what's going on here. Well. Well, what if I go, what do I want to see? I want to see my trips if I'm signed in. If I go to my, that shouldn't matter. That doesn't solve this problem at all. In terms of structure, I've got app and I'm rendering my home. And should be able from home. If I do this way. The token. Oh my gosh. Well, wait a minute. Did I just do what I think I didn't do? Is it actually this? Do I need to wrap this?
I mean, they need to be an object?
Well, it just needs to be, run this as regular JavaScript. I don't think so. Could be wrong. Let's try login. No, because it is updating our path. Like, so that's working. Right? It's updating our path. Why is React not listening anymore?
I think this is a good lesson in why errors are great.
Yeah. I'm not getting any errors, though. It's the problem.
Right.
I'm having errors, internal errors, mental errors, but I'm not getting much feedback here. So, and I just don't see logged in as false.
Howard, is this a good time to maybe hit Stack Overflow or something?
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
How, what if you took it out of the header, just for the hell of it, to just eliminate variables?
Say that again, sorry.
What if you just took it, you have it wrapped in a header?
Oh, you know what? That's not a bad idea. But just to, but I like
Simple.
the idea of eliminating variables.
Right.
Oops, not the div, just the header.
You need a return statement
Where would that be?
in the home.
Let's
do one thing at a time.
This is an implicit return, with the smooth parentheses.
Right. Okay.
And the fact that we're seeing it rendered on the screen means that we are getting it. What's boggling my mind a little bit is like we're seeing the change. And if I just don't understand how if I type this and hit enter, I'm going to the right place, right? And that's the same thing that.
So the router, the links don't need an implicit like submit, like a handle submit kind of thing.
That's what should be handled here. So let's check it out. So let's do exactly what Chris recommended. React router link not updates URL, but doesn't load component. Let's see. Links changed URL, but not render component. Let's just start with the very first one, see what it says. Yeah, no, so this is what I've already done. I already did that. This guide holds the answers you seek. This is not there anymore, so that doesn't help. Let's look at the second one. And updating URL, but not changing. Yeah, but I should be getting, so if we look at home, for example, home is rendered by router, meaning that it should, we're not at home right now, home should already have router props because it's rendered as a child of a route, right? So if we look at home, which is what this thing is, there, I've got my router props. That's good news. Because that should then allow me, you know, this it should work. All right. React router changes, but not the view. Good old Stack Overflow. Let's see. That's not really it. Does app have router props? Does app need router props? Yeah. No, it shouldn't. Let's just try it. Don't think, no, because it's already listening. I don't, what's boggling my mind is that I can type it in, I can hard code it, and it works. But when React itself changes it, it's not working. That's what's weird to me. Sign up or log in. Yeah, that wasn't it. I didn't think that was it. Okay. Anyone's got ideas? I'm all for trying anything. Know you're late to this app. A question, a bit confused on component will mount versus component did mount. Don't use component will mount. That's the easy answer to that. Use component did mount. I think component will mount is if it's not deprecated, then it will be soon. I think that's unsafe now. I would double check that. I'm not 100%, but component did mount. Component will mount is before it mounted, though, to answer your question directly, and component did mount is after that first render. So it's right before the first render, right after the first render. That's the life cycle. So component will mount, you look at it actually before it's rendered. Component did mount is after that first render. That's a simple answer. Looks like that question is stale. It's 20 minutes old, but hopefully, Jessica, if you're still hanging around, then that's the answer. Any changes?
I'm hanging. I'm trying to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah, and if, you know, I am too. Oh, good Lord. Why would this be on Reddit? Well, we could try Reddit.
Have you tried removing switch and just using div?
Yeah, I didn't have switch here originally, but switch is not the problem. With or without switch would determine, like, are we only ever showing one of these at a time versus if I had multiple matches, I might see like multiple components in front of me.
Okay.
So for you know,
can you try removing the match? What
yeah,
does
yeah,
the match do?
I threw that in there. Exact path component, that's the basic routing. And the routing is working as long as we manually type it in. It's my link that's not working.
Okay, this is like, yeah, someone's going, sorry.
Go ahead.
This is probably, I don't think it's it, but this is like a weird thing. Since router is not in this file, the file that we're importing home, and the router is in the file above it, maybe that's an issue? I don't know.
So once router wraps app.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought also.
We should be good to go for any of our routes.
Yeah, I would assume that too. But if it's not working, like...
So like I should be able even to do something kind of ludicrous like this. If I did that and have it as a child here, I'd have to import route.
My money is on the ternary.
Well, the ternary is working because we're getting home. Home is what's showing. So like if I said, for example, so let me just undo this kind of lunacy that I was thinking about doing. If we look at the ternary, if I say not logged in, right, whoops, and I'm not, so that means that if we're not logged in, we should actually go to my trips now. And if we go to home, we should go to my trips, which is going to cause a problem because I'm not logged in. And that's probably why we're kind of seeing nothing here. But let's see what it says. Yeah, we're not really seeing anything there.
And there's no way to put a debugger in there, in that line?
Well, we could drop a debugger in here, but I'm not sure what I would be looking at, unfortunately, at this point. I just don't understand, why is this working in hard coding but not link? Let's see what we can do here. React router link updates URL but doesn't load components. That's my query.
Boy, do I feel better knowing that you're stumped.
Yeah, I don't,
No offense, but...
No, none taking. Yeah, I'm getting away from the question here. Link changes URL but does not render component. That's my problem. Yeah, that's the weird thing too, is I can see that once I click that, and then if I manually refresh. So is it that we're actually not triggering? Yeah, but that should trigger. Let's see what this thing says.
What if you changed your linked to the path like they show with where you see link to products, link to orders, link to customers?
That's what I have, right?
Okay, I'm
Well, yeah, I mean, so I started off with just a string because that's all it needs.
I see.
Sign up, and I've changed it along the way because there are several different ways that you can build a link, right? It takes up to 4 different types of arguments, but the string is the simplest and it should work. I thought.
Do we need the browser router?
Browser router I already have wrapping app, so I shouldn't need it to wrap anywhere else. Because this is my one, right now I only have I have one place that's sort of acting as my controller, which is app, and I've got 4 routes listed here. So basically app should render one of these 4 things at any given time. And that's the only thing app should render.
So where is browser router? I just don't see it. I'm a little confused.
Browser router, I grabbed an index, and I'm wrapping the entirety, and I'm changing the name to router just for simplicity sake, and I'm wrapping all of app in it. We could, if I wanted to, if we want to be sort of a little more verbose, I guess we could do that. Get rid of this, save that, and it's still the same thing, but that's not going to change my behavior. That's just going to change how many characters are in that file. So it's updating my props, but that's not triggering a re-render. That's my problem. When I update my props, it's not triggering this to re-render.
So it's okay to have like some, we do a render, others we do the component equals to the component name.
Yep.
To mix
It
and
just
match. That's
yeah,
sure.
it depends on if we have to pass specific, we would render if we need either some logic like I have here, or if I want to pass particular props that won't be automatically supplied. And so that's the idea. If I go to login, for example, and then I actually reload the page where it actually catches and shows me my login component. If I look and I inspect login here, which is this guy. Whoops, not that. Sorry. Come back. Okay. I know no one's logged in. Thank you. So if I inspect this login component, notice that I have history, location, and match. Those are my router props, and those are updating. Yeah. So I don't understand. I'm not sure what I was. Okay, so what I'm saying is I have component here, right? This is rendering as a result of component. So the whatever props would get supplied here are automatically going to be passed along if I just sort of use the reference this way. If I want to be more specific with my props, either pass more or less props along to these rendered components, I can use render, and render I can be more explicit with what I'm doing, and also add logic with render. So that's kind of the difference. But it shouldn't matter whether I have one or the other as far as how the routing is working. Home has a couple links to it.
The with router, should that be the one that be at before the connect? Because it wraps the whole thing, or doesn't matter if we put the with router in front of the connect and then close them?
I don't think it matters. We could try it either way, but like either way, neither way should it matter. And I shouldn't need with router, I don't think here. Because with router gives app those props. And we can see now, like if we look at app right now, if we find app. App right now has history, location, and match as props. And wait, was that my problem? Oh, duh. Okay. So, all right. I actually said the answer, and so I didn't realize that the order mattered. Who was it who said that just now, by the way?
Yeah, I think I came across some problems similar before. The
Neat.
way I put them, sometimes they
Yeah.
work, sometimes they don't. It looks like with router has to be the first thing.
I didn't realize
Wrapping the
that.
connect.
I'm glad you said that. I would have thought it wouldn't matter since these both basically take this thing and add props. So now thinking about it, if I don't have with router, if I don't put with router there, and I look at, if I inspect app again, app, there are no router props. Whereas, and I didn't realize that I wasn't getting them. Thank you for pointing that out. So now if I connect with router, what that does is it gives app those things as props. Now I see what my problem was. My problem was now I have history, location, and match as props to app. And the fact that a moment ago, app didn't have those as props, those particular props were what change when I use link, when I click on a link. And because those weren't props coming to app, when those props changed, even though it reflected in the URL, because the prop itself changed, because it's not a prop being supplied to app, React doesn't consider app as something that needs to reload. That's what the problem was. So now it's working. Does that make sense? So the router props, I do need to, so the router props are going to be given, history, match, and location are going to be given to any children of a route automatically. I can change that if I use render. And I can explicitly pick and choose the props that are going to be supplied. But I wasn't giving app the router props, and that's why we need with router. With router then says, kind of like connect does with map state to props and map dispatch to props, giving us props from the React state and from the actions. So with router gives us those router props to a particular component if it wouldn't automatically get them. So now that app is receiving those as props, when they change, now app is actually listening and changing along. Sorry, that's exactly it. So thank you, I think it was Nee for pointing that out, that I had this backward. And that's exactly what my problem was. And I wasn't thinking about that. So when I change, so when React says, should I change this or should I not? It says, did anything just change that this component needs to know about? So it's state or it's props. And before I used with router, app wasn't getting, the router props weren't props for app. App was like, I don't care about those props. So I don't need to re-render when they change. And now it is. So I can go back and I can click login. I can go back and I can click sign up. Okay, so that's what we want. Thank you. Let's see, what other foolishness did I do that I need to switch around? And by the way, let's just for fun, H3. And now we should see that even as header children, they're still updating those props, which means that we can make it a little bigger here and nice and bold. And I don't like that there's no space there, so. Will that add spaces? I don't think so. Yeah, whatever. That's good enough. I'm happy with that. Maybe a break in here would actually be better. Or just this. No. Okay.
Hey, Howard, if you want the space, just maybe put it in a span.
That's a good idea too. And lowercase. Okay, good enough. Well, whatever this lands on, we'll be happy with it, and we'll move forward. Whoops. Okay, that's the most beautiful thing. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, span's fine. That's gorgeous. I love it. So now I can click to sign up. I can go back, or I can log in, And so let's go ahead and do that. Nadia, password. When I log in, now what I want to see, now that once I'm logged in, once, hopefully, Redux, does Redux show me as logged in? Yes, it does. Okay, so now that there is a current user, I should have updated this guy. Still on login. Okay, so now I have to think about logging in. So I just logged in, and I'm still looking at the login screen. When I refresh the page, if I look at my state, I have a current user, right? So I am logged in. For whatever reason, I'm still stuck on login. So this is a problem, right? So now what I have to think about is once I've actually logged in, let's look at our login component, which is this guy. So once this thing has fired, I'm logging in, and this action needs to do more than it's doing right now. So right now, if I look at the action login, which is in my actions, excuse me, which is actually an action I believe around current user, login, there it is. I now need to do more than I've done. And the problem is that once I've logged in, my URL isn't changing. And so the way that I'm going to handle that is on my handle submit, when I log in, I need to pass along more than the login form data. What I need to happen is I need my history to change, right? Once I've successfully logged in, this should go back to like / or something else where the application can then make a determination that we should be looking at the trips, which has just happened because I reloaded the page. So right now in this actions file, I don't have access to those router props. The router props, well, the router props. That's it. The router props history is what I was thinking of. So I need to change that. And the way I can do that is when I log in here, if I put like a debugger in here or something like that, or if I look at just the login component when I go back to login, and I don't think I have a protection against login right now, right? Which is the problem. When I'm looking at this thing, if I look at React, and I inspect my props on login, which is here, notice that I have my router props. And remember that history is a mutable prop. And it's also just a plain old object. Because it's an object, it's passed by reference, which means that I can, if I want to, grab it here, history, for example, history, because it's just coming in as a prop, right? React props.history. And just make sure I had that spacing right. Router, come on, just get me there. There you are. Yeah, so it's just a top level prop. So then I can grab it. I can grab it here. And I'm now going to pass it along with my login. So if there's success on login, I actually want to do something like history.push, because now I'm receiving it. Oh yeah, I need to receive it. So I'm not just receiving my credentials. I'm also receiving my history object. And so now I can do something like history.push and change the URL once I've successfully logged in. If I fail to log in, I'm just going to get an error alerted to me, whatever that error was from the back end. But if I successfully log in, when I submit my login form, I'm going to pass that object along and use it in my action creator. So let's see what happens if I refresh the page right now. I'm logged out. No. Oh yeah, I was still on the login page, sorry. So let me get logged out, which I need to actually, I took away the logout component. So let me hang on. Let's find that. I took away navbar, so I'll just leave the logout here if we're not logged in. So I'm going to say logged in, log out. Oh, okay, there we go. So now I should see the logout button anytime I'm not logged in, and I got rid of it. So let's grab it back. Okay, now I should be able to click log out, and now I'm logged out. So now when I choose to log in, if I type in something that's not actually a username and a password, I should get an error saying invalid credentials, and my form is still populated. So if I type in Nadia and then password, right, or passrod or whatever, spell it right, I still have invalid credentials. My form's still there. Oh yeah, I just forgot the F. Now I can actually log in. And once I've logged in, you didn't see it because it happened so fast. Now we updated the URL and we went exactly where we wanted to. Okay, when we updated that URL, because app is now listening to my history props, or I should say my router props, including history. Once that changed, this re-rendered, and that said, okay, now show us exactly where we want to go. It wasn't this one. It wasn't this one because we went back to just slash. And now we do a quick check. Are we logged in? Yes. Okay, now we're actually going to go to my trips. Does that make sense, the flow that just happened? And how I accomplished that? Any questions about that? You want to see that again, or that was good, we're happy, and thank goodness we're moving forward now, so nobody's going to say anything.
Do you want to do a quick 2-second? I don't know if I caught everything.
Okay, so when I went to log in before, I logged in and everything happened okay, right? So like, I'm going to remove what I just added. So let me see. What I added was in the action. So let me just open up only the current players here. So app is involved. My login form is involved. And let me just grab, I wonder if is it too much? Is that too small if I go one level smaller? I'm trying to see if I can fit one more. Tell me if it is, it's fine. It's still good. So if I look in my actions, I'm looking for current user because that's the one that holds my login action. Is this too busy? If it is, I'll try and we'll change it around a little bit. I guess we don't need to look at both app and I think just these two are fine. When I logged in, I submitted this action right here previously. My credentials were the only thing here. I didn't pass my history prop yet. So I'll just get rid of line 38 for just a moment. Okay. So now if I go to log in again, so if I go to Nadia F, that's my user here, and I log in. Okay, and I'm going to watch my network tab because network or Redux are the only thing that's going to help us here in terms of like seeing what's happening. This is a little big too. Is that still okay, or is that too small?
That's good.
Okay, so if I look at my state, my current user is null. So I'm going to watch my state, and I'm going to see that when I log in, I get my current user. That happened. We can see the network request that we made to log in, and we got our user back, right? It was the correct user. Everything worked fine. The backend now logged us in with sessions. I'm now logged in according to the backend and even according to the front end. But the problem is, in order to affect a change on what we see, I need props to change for whatever it is that I'm looking at, right? So I was on the login form and I submitted the login form, but the URL didn't change. My history didn't change. Nothing changed that would trigger a change on the front end here, even though, actually I'm kind of surprised because current user changed it. Current user did change. Did I explain that? Current user changed. And current user is a prop that app depends on. That's interesting. So it actually almost surprises me a little bit that that didn't automatically update. But it didn't. So we're taking matters into our own hands. And the way that we did that is the router props, there are 3 router props, which we haven't talked a lot about, but they are, if I look at React, the router props are match, history, and location. So if I look at anything that is rendered via, if I look at anything that either is connected with router or is rendered directly as a result of a route, I get history, location, and match. Location is special because history is special because it is a mutable object. I'm allowed to change this object on the fly. I don't have to fire an action through Redux. I don't have to use set state with React. I can just directly mutate it. And each of these is used slightly different. Match holds like things like our, if I had like a dynamic piece of my URL, for example, in Rails, we would hold that dynamic piece. If I did something like this, users/ID, right? And say my ID is 45. This is a dynamic part of the URL, number 45. And I would declare the route as a symbol. And once that actual value is supplied, this value is stored in the params hash, right? Under whatever I called this thing in my route. If I called it ID, then it would be stored as under params ID. Similarly, in React Router, I can do the same thing. I can have a dynamic route. Only instead of being like on the backend params, we now have this object match, which has params in it, and that will hold an object with just like params hash that you're used to, which is why they made the convention that way. It's nice and handy. It's going to be an object whose keys and values match the keys, the dynamic pieces of your URL here. Okay. So that's a little bit about match. History is like, where are we at any given time? And I can push, and push changes where we are, right? I can push and change the current URL. There's a lot more than that, and I encourage you to do a little self-study and look into these objects. I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now talking about them, because we have a lot of work to do on this app.
So you use the history, the push history back to the home page?
That's right. That's exactly it. And my actions file doesn't have direct access. Where were we here? This one. I don't have direct access to history, but because it's a mutable object, and because I have access to it as login, because login was rendered directly as a result of a route, and I have access to it as a prop, I can pass it along to an action, and then I can change it. So now I'm passing not just my credentials, but also that history object, which is mutable, so I can do something like push. So once I've successfully logged in, and only if I've successfully logged in, I fire the dispatches that I need, and I have that ability because I'm using Thunk. And then finally, I push my history to send me back, and I'm basically saying, let's reset. I'm going to fire basically the root route, and I know that should change if I've successfully logged in, because now this should be true, right? Logged in is now true, and that will, instead of going to home, which is what we were looking at a minute ago, it's going to go to my trips. Okay, that's the flow of what we just did. And so now, wait a minute, why do I, oh, that's because I have users, I guess. Let's see. Are we logged in now? We are, right? No. Oh, yes, we are. Okay. So if I log out, we'll try it again, log in. Nadia, oops, Nadia F, password. And so now this thing changed once we had successful login, and now we're back to looking at my trips, which is good news.
Cool.
All right, so then let's see, maybe I want to look at details around one of these trips, right? Maybe I want these things to actually be links themselves. Like what, you know, let's think about what it is we want to do. If I try and sign up. Chris, you signed up, right? Chris, who else was it that we had in the database?
I was in there at one point.
Yeah, so then, did I sign up yet? I think I did, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, I didn't get my alert message, huh? No, wait, I am signed in. Okay, that's interesting. So again, with sign up, I want to do the same thing. So when I sign up, which I now need to find my sign up route, I need to find my handle submit, which is here. And besides, besides the credentials that I'm using to sign up, or the information, I guess, I'm also going to grab history here. I'm going to pass it along to my sign up action. And similarly, we will go to our, which I think is also current user, which go to sign up and do the exact same thing. So I'm just going to duplicate this line and grab it down on line 66. Okay, and now when I sign up, if I were to sign up, whoa, unexpected use of history. That's because I didn't grab it as an argument. Thank you. There we go. And now it should be in good shape. It didn't work this time because I didn't actually just fire that action. But if I log out, and well, that was interesting. Logging out took us back to sign up. That's something else I probably want to change. So I probably want to do this to a lot of these things, right? I want to basically reset once I've logged in, signed up, signed in, or logged out. I probably want to go ahead and reset back to like my home page. But let's just sign up somebody else. Let's say Babs, username Babs, password, city. You want to give a city, state, country, Babs? I don't know where Babs is. We'll make one up. We'll say New York.
Sorry, I stepped away for a minute. Did you call me?
Yeah, I was just wondering where you are.
I'm in San Mateo, California.
All right, that's better than New York. Well, I mean, better because it's more accurate. California, and way less boring. Okay, there we go. So now when I sign up, I want to clear this out, all right? And wait, did we not do that? So pass my history, history.push. What happened there? Maybe that was not successful. Let's look at our network. Sign up. That was successful. If we look at our Redux, was that successful? Current user is now, ooh, this doesn't feel right, does it? Is that right? Let's see, if we log in, let's see.
I think we did have hometown nested, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, it didn't look the same to me, but if it is, it's fine. Just want to make sure our objects are looking the same regardless of what it is we're doing. Okay, got it. Okay, I guess that was it then, huh? Okay, so ID, type, attribute. So that's good then. So we got all that. Why did we not? Okay, so when we sign up, let's say Bob, password. City is going to be Dayton, Ohio, USA. Why did that not clear back? We got a successful response, right? We must have. Did we dispatch reset sign up form? Yes. So then why did we not? History.push / I bet I know why. Maybe. Log out. Okay, so check this out. If I type in sign up in the URL and hit enter. Well, no, wait a minute. It would have given me an error. Did we get an error message in the console? No, we didn't, right? Why would we not have? What I want to check is, do we have those props? And so if I look in my React, and I look at my sign up, notice that there are no history prop, there are no router props here because I got here as a result of typing into the URL rather than as the result of clicking a link, which users generally aren't going to do. You're not really going to typically have people know the links and click on them, as opposed to if I click sign up and now I look at my, if I look at actually the sign up component, I don't have them anymore either. Okay, so what's going on there? Oh, well, let's see. Let's find out. What in the world just happened? So, oh, so that's what happened. So remember I said we can adjust the props that we get by using render, right? If I just give the component, then it'll automatically pass along whatever props would have by default been passed along. Here, I'm explicitly saying, don't give me any props and pass this thing along sort of naked, right? And that's not what I want. I actually do want the props to come along so that I can at least use history. If history is all I need, I can also, by the way, just to sort of show this, I could also say props, and then I can explicitly say I only want a particular prop, right? And so like in this case, sign up, and I could say history equals and props.history. Similarly, I can destructure this thing, right? I could say history, and I can just pass it along as history. And now when I go to sign up, when I actually click the link sign up, so I'm going to go back to my root route. When I click sign up now, the only router prop should be history. So let's inspect it. And if we look at sign up, there's history. And that's the only one I need. Maybe that makes sense actually in this case. But now that I have it, I should be able to pass it along to my action, or yep, pass it along to my action, which is what I'm doing here. So now history actually exists where it didn't a moment ago. And that should then be able to be carried through to my action creator. Let's see what happens now. So let's see, Sally, password, New York, USA, sign up, and now it's working the way we want it to. So that's good news, right? So we now have the ability to sign up or log in and kind of see what we want to see here on the screen. And now we're seeing the trips. Okay, so where do we want to go from here? We've gotten at least somewhat of a base sort of functionality going as far as logging in and signing up. We've got a very basic routing system going. I think what I'd like to do is sort of make some more routes, maybe have some show pages for trips. And then we also need to add the ability to create trips and submit them to the back end. Any preferences from the audience as far as like what we want to see right now? Would we like to play with a form and send a post request? Do we want to play with some more routes and do some, make some show pages? What are we thinking?
I guess the easiest thing to do is to create trips so that you can then operate on them.
Okay, so what should that route look like?
New trip?
Yeah, probably like trips new or something. This should probably just be trips. I don't know, unless we're ever going to be able to see someone else's trips. Even so, I think I kind of like, let's try and stay a little bit more restful. So let's do that. And is there anywhere else? I don't think we actually were using those yet, right? We never actually used this. So I think I can make that change without it affecting anything else. So I think trips new makes sense, right? And let's say like new trip. That feels pretty good for a component name, right? So let's create that component. A new trip.js. Let's see, new trip is going to be, do I want a stateless component? Sure. And this is going to be new trip. Should I call it new trip or new trip form? How verbose do we want to be?
New trip form.
New trip form. Okay, so whoops, that's nice. That's pretty, I think, obvious. Let's rename it. Rename new trip form. Okay, and now let's think about, and I need to always check my backend because I never remember, what does a trip have? What does it need? So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to check the schema to see what all a trip can have. And it looks like it has these things. I'll just paste them down here for reference for now. And what does a trip need? What must it have? Let's look in our models. I don't think I've put a lot of validations. I have put no validations yet. So let's add those validates. I think I definitely want a name. It definitely belongs to, so it needs to have the user and the location. Well, actually, it's just that. That's good enough. Belongs to user, has a name. Do we want to say that the start and end dates are necessary or not? I don't think we necessarily need them right away. What do you all think?
No, we can leave it as optional.
Yeah, I think that's optional. I think optional is fine. So we'll save those. Now we have a couple validations anyway. And now what we actually want to return here is a form.
Hey, Howard.
Yep.
Can I try to throw a wrench in the works?
Yeah, of course.
Could a trip have multiple locations?
Yeah, it does actually. A trip has many locations.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So as far as a wrench, like I was just putting this here for reference. And this, if you'll remember, this was a mistake. I actually need to change that. Like I should update our schema. This is something that I need to go back, and I just didn't want to take the time to do it during one of these sessions, even though it's only going to take 5 seconds. This was like a previous iteration of trip. We no longer have location ID. It's gone. So instead it has name. Yeah, you're right.
All right.
So let's at least think about like a basic form with a couple of inputs. Let's see. And let's see, we want a name. Well, let's see. What information do we need? We could assume that the current user is always going to be the one submitting this form. And as such, as long as we supply the information we need from Redux, we really don't need to choose that in the form. We definitely need a name. And I need an on change. And I should have a value to keep this controlled. And we could do start date, end date. And let's see, so the user ID is, we're gonna know the name we're supplying, locations, it has many, this doesn't exist, and start date and end date we have. So it's pretty basic actually for starters here. And let's see, I don't know what props I'm receiving yet. And now I have to think about Redux. So if I look at my Redux store as it stands, new trip is not defined, line 29 in app. It's because I changed it to new trip form and I didn't import it yet. New trip form. Cool. So now I've got the React side at least somewhat taken care of, maybe. New trip form.js. Is that not spelled right? New trip form. Components. Where'd it go? Am I crazy?
Under your nav bar and in components on the tree.
Wait.
It's after the next one, Howard.
Oh, I thought I changed the name of this thing. All right, so new trip form. There we go. I guess I didn't. Okay, so new trip form. There we go. Hopefully that still not happy. Okay, yeah, I haven't changed that. I know on change needs to exist. So let's see. This can no longer be implicit return. Actually, I didn't need to do that, did I? I just need to do this. And I'm going to return this now explicitly, which means I want to indent it. And I'm going to say like handle change, just for now anyway. Okay, and we'll say this is going to be the same thing for all these. And the value is going to be name, oops, start date and end date. Okay. No change is not defined. Thank you. Okay, so now I have to think about internal server error. That's interesting. Did I kill my server? That's weird. All right, so what I need to think about, I have my form, at least the skeleton of my form, right? And now I have to start thinking about how is this going to change things. So first I'm going to check out Redux and look at my state. My state right now is users, current user, login form, my trips, and sign up form. So as I'm putting everything in Redux in this particular application, I need to now add a new trip form. So let's do that. And the flow of things, at least my opinion anyway, is I know I need a reducer. Okay, so I'm going to add that new file called new trip form.js. Okay, I'm going to split this off to the right. And this is going to be a reducer. I'm just going to steal one of my other reducers real quick. Copy, paste, and my initial state is just going to be username, start date, and end date. By the way, I don't know why I'm using snake case there. How long have I been doing that? And there we go. Let's at least get an initial state going. Well, I know I'm going to want both of these actually, so I'll just leave these. New trip form, reset. Reset. Okay, so this actually probably isn't going to change too much. This is going to look very similar. I'm still getting my initial state. My action I can update, I can reset, and I can render a default. What's my next step now that I have built my reducer so that it shows up in the Redux store? Anyone?
Add it to the combiner.
Exactly. I need to add it to my store, right? So let's look and see where we built our store. And I still have this. I still have my root reducer being declared just inline in my store.js. I could and probably would, by convention, build a new file and export it and import it, especially as this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So this is going to be. I need to import it. So I can call it whatever I want, and this is called new trip form from new trip form. That's what I call that file. And I'm just going to add it.
This is Babs. I had a question.
Sure.
So is Redux handling the form state?
Yes.
As well? Okay.
Now I don't have to do that. If I want to just let my local component handle state for a form, that's fine. Right?
Okay. That's what I ended up doing with my project.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
As long as you're using Redux for like the main, like the list of stuff and your user and whatever else, that's fine. You can choose to keep form local your form state local if you want.
Okay, I've always wondered about that. Okay.
Yeah, that's your choice. And I like the argument both ways, because you could say, well, no one else needs to know about this form data, right? No one's going to know about it till it's done, and then the user is going to submit it, and that's when Redux needs to know about it. Or you could say, I have one place to look for everything on my application, and I'm just going to use Redux for all of it. And there's an advantage there too. It doesn't matter to me, and I don't think it'll matter as far as like this course, the final assessment, that kind of thing. It's your call. Whatever you want to do is fine. Good question though. I'm just choosing right now to put everything in Redux, including my new trip form and the on-change handler thereof. Or just holding the state, I should say, of that form. So then, so I've got my initial state, which is just those three things. And let's see. So here's where I did that. Okay, why did I do that? Start date, end date, there we go. Cool. So now what's my next? So first I'm going to check and make sure that that's there. Oh, and it was. Okay. New trip form. State. I'm going to investigate that internal server error, but right now I just don't care about it. New trip form, name, state, end date. That looks good. So now what? I built my reducer. I added it to my root reducer. And what's my next step?
Do you want to stub out and on-submit or no?
It's too soon for that. I don't want, so that's my opinion. This is my opinion. That's a good question. The way I like to do it, and this is just my own order of operations, right? You can choose whatever flow you like. I like to, if I'm using Redux, then I like to make the connection that we're making right now to Redux and make sure that I can get an initial state going. My next step is I want to be able to capture the information in the form, because I like to capture the information first before I build the functionality to submit the form. Because to me, it's like, why even build a submit action before I know I'm capturing the data appropriately? So I want to make sure I can capture the form data, make sure I can fill it out by typing in those inputs. And when I do, I'm creating an object that is representative of exactly the data that I want to send to the backend. And then I'm going to build my submit action. just my opinion. That's my
So Howard, would you need then the set state and the handle change?
Exactly, and because I'm using Redux, it's setting state means setting Redux state, which means I need to build this functionality out, right? So what argument will my handle change get automatically? Because it's as long as it's a reference from a chain from the from an event. Yep, I'll get event. Let's make this a little prettier. Who wrote this? Okay, whoops. Cool. And what I want to do is I'm going to grab the name const name value from the event.target. And basically what I want to do is update the form. Update new trip form. Right? This is what I want to have happen, right, with the name and value. But I don't have this functionality built yet. So how do I do this? What does this represent? This thing that I typed.
Your action creator.
Exactly, it represents my action creator. So that's the answer to the question I asked a minute ago, which is what do I need to do? I need to build some action creators. So I'm going to say new trip form.js, and I'm going to cover up my reducer. And I'll say, let's see, we need to build some action creators. And first, let's just build a change handler. So we'll say sync actions, or just regular old actions, synchronous, right? We say, I guess sync actions. Sync actions like fixing drips. Oh man, it's Friday. So I'm going to say export const handle update, I guess update new trip form. And I'm going to take the name and value and return what data type am I going to return from an action creator? From an object, at least from a synchronous action creator. And I need a type, and I need something else. So let's see, I'm going to look in now is where I want to double check my reducer. So I'm actually going to pull that down here. I can look at it. And I'm just going to copy paste so I don't misspell it. Update new trip form. There. And this one is a little bit cleaner than the other one that I built because the other one was a nested form and I was lazy. This one I'm going to be a little bit less lazy. And I'm actually going to pass in form data is going to be name value. So I'm actually going to pass an object here. And that's going to be, so my action.form data will be an object containing a name and value. And what I'm going to do with that is actually use only update the pieces of state that I want rather than like come crashing through and replace the entire thing. So I'm going to return, how am I going to do that? You all tell me. What do I need to do? If I'm actually going to only change the name and the value that I want, that I need to change, right? There are three possible properties that I might be changing at any time. If I'm only going to change one of them, what do I need to do here to keep the rest of it intact?
I think you have to spread state.
That's exactly right. State, and then what?
And then you've got to pull in, you only want the one that's changed, right?
Yep.
So,
like that?
Right. And then form data.value, right?
Perfect. Awesome. That's exactly right. Cool. So let's see what happens. So what I want to do now is make sure that that works, that we didn't break anything or mistype anything or whatever. And I guess I need to log in. What happened to my server? Is there a problem here? Is there a problem here, officer? Internal server error. There is a problem. What happened to my server? Argument error. When did this happen? You need to supply at least one validation. You need to supply what?
Doesn't like your validators, maybe?
Maybe. But what validator have we changed? Who's this? Oh, we'll get rid of that for now. Maybe just validates name. Oh, duh. Thank you. I never did this. Presence, True. I forgot to tell it exactly. That's exactly what that error was saying. It's saying, you said you want to validate these things, but you didn't tell me how. That's what Rails was just saying. Excuse me, I can only do what you tell me. I'm not that smart, but now I have presence true, so it should be happy again. So Rails, are you happy again? Let's try. Great. So now that I'm logged in, I should be able to go to new trips. And by the way, this is where my nav bar actually like comes into play, because it wasn't really a nav bar, so we didn't really have things to do. Now we do, and I want to be able to do something like trips new, right? And I want to be able to render that form that we just created. And this is it, right? This of course looks terrible, but new trip form, let's just say, for now we can add a break on the end of these so they line up. Oops. And maybe a placeholder. Placeholder holder equals name, start date. Actually, lowercase is fine. Start date and end date. Let's see if that looks any better. Update new port. Okay, great. So update new trip form is not defined. Okay, now what?
Do we need to import it?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. So import, and this is a named export, or yep, it is update new trip form from actions, new trip form. And I actually need to go up to actions, don't I? Cool. So now should it work? It should compile. It's not gonna work. Why won't it work? It compiled for me. By the way, why didn't my placeholders work? That's weird. Does that jump out at anyone? Why do my placeholders not work? Oh, because I'm overwriting the value. Okay, duh. What if I start with an empty string, will my placeholder pick up? It will, right? Yes, okay, that's what I want. Empty string for now. Okay, so now we should see my placeholders come shining through. Great, but it's still not gonna work. Why not? What's the problem?
Don't you have to still set state or?
Say it again, sorry.
Set state or no?
Well, I'm not gonna set state because I'm not gonna use the React's set state because I have all my state in Redux.
Right. Never mind.
But that's a good thought. But your answer though, like in terms of what you're saying, is correct. I'm not resetting the state, right? If I go typing into these things, I can't even. First of all, I can't type into them because I've hard coded the value. So let's pull those out. Let's not get ahead of ourselves with that. We'll bring back the value momentarily, but let me at least allow us to type in it and still see that nothing is working the way I want it to. So if I look at my new trip form and I start typing in here, right? This is okay. Oh, there's no submit. So don't forget I need to be able to submit the form, of course. Type equals, sorry, submit.
Don't you have to use connect?
Yes, that's exactly where I was driving to. That this value is going to be hard coded with create tripe. How did the E migrate from the end of create to the end of trip? I don't know. Cool. All right, so let's see. All right, so then now I should actually have a button that I can click. But like Sally just said, because I'm not doing anything with this, when I click this button, something will happen, right? I could like console log in here if I wanted to. Console. I could even go as far as going to my action and say, my action creator and console logging here. Action fired. And then I'll put like some question marks because like, was it really? Whoops, cancel that, save that, okay. So now when this thing reloads, if we look in Redux, and I look in my state, and I look at my new trip form, nothing is changing as I'm typing because as Sally mentioned, I'm not connected to anything. And even though I can click create trip, and I can look in the console, oh, I didn't prevent default, dang it. Don't forget to prevent default, just like you always have had to, default. Okay, so now that I won't reset, when I watch the console, hopefully we'll still see, oh no, I didn't mean to log out. Oh my gosh. And now this isn't gonna work again. But anyway, we'll still see the same thing. It says action fired, right? Every time I am typing, we see that action is fired. But it's not real, right? Nothing is actually updating in Redux. And like Sally said, we're not connected. So that's what we need to do. Right now, it's actually invoking directly. It's invoking this function directly, but that's not what we do, right? We give this function to Redux and say, here, Redux, you call this when it needs to be called. So that what we import here is not what we're invoking here. It's what we're telling Redux to dispatch for us as an action. Okay, so then let's add connect. Import connect. Connect with the correct number of ends. That's a React Redux thing. React Redux. Okay. And now what?
You have to export the, well, you have map state to props or not.
Yep. No, you're right. I'm jumping around. I do need to do that, and I need to make a const map state to props, which takes state as an argument and returns an object. And what pieces of state do I need, or what piece of state do I need?
The object in the reducer?
Yeah. And what I can do if I want to, right? I could do something like this. I could say const, let's see, what are these things called? Redux. Well, I have it right here. It's start date, end date. Start date, end date, and name equals state dot new trip form. Cool. I need to do this. And now I can grab those things. I've destructured them. I can grab them directly. And I can say, give me start date, end date, and name as props. So now these things are available as props in my component once I have passed in map state to props. This is almost getting a little ahead of ourselves, though, with the map state to props, because what do I need to do first in terms of like what I've tried to set up originally? And why did I import this thing on line 2?
I think we need dispatch.
Yeah, that's what we need. We either need to build a map dispatch to props function, or I can use the easier, in my opinion, shorthand version of just putting it in as an object here. Update new trip form there. Okay. Let's just make this a little easier. Is this still readable all the way down there for everyone?
Hey, Howard, this is Babs. I had a question.
Yeah.
Can you also put your map state to props in line with on line 46? Or is that too complicated?
Yeah, right here?
Yeah.
You can. So all this, so it's just a callback, and callbacks must be function expressions or function references, right? It's one of those two things. A function expression can be produced a number of ways. This is one of them. I wouldn't necessarily need the const. I would be starting there with state. So I could do this, right? If is this what you're asking, I could just do literally this. Is that what you want to know?
Yeah, and then you add state, and then you use the arrow function and pass in your objects.
Just like that? Yeah, I can do that, right? That's no problem. It's just hard to look at, in my opinion.
Okay.
I don't want this. So I really like the shorthand version here because it's just an object. It's easy. I do not like putting function expressions this much in line. To me, it's like, that's really hard to read. I can. There's nothing going to prevent me from doing that. It should still work. I just don't like doing it personally. Maybe if I only needed one tiny piece of state, if it was something as simple as I could say state, or like if state had, I don't know, what is it? Well, form, right? New trip form. I could do that and just then return it as an object. And that's not as bad, right? If it's just one thing, it should be a lowercase n. Something like that might work because except that I had to, except that my syntax is off, right? There. So now I'm destructuring the state and saying, give me just the new trip form and return the object whose key and value is new trip form, right? That's all this thing is really doing anyway, but I'm splitting it up even further.
Okay.
Howard, just following up on that, where
Yep.
in your map state to props, where your const, you specify just 3 of the variables, but couldn't you also just return state equals state dot new trip form? But this way you were being specific.
I'm just literally, yeah, I'm grabbing 3 properties instead of 1. I could just do this, right? I could just say form data or whatever I want to call it, and point to state.newTripForm. And now I have the whole object, and now I could grab it and I could destructure it here if I wanted to, right? Any of those things would work. However I want to do it. There's like 100 ways that I could do this. I don't know why, this just is what popped into my mind. I said, let's destructure it here and then pass 3 separate props. Whichever way you want to do is fine. I don't know that there's a huge advantage one way or the other. If this is confusing, we can pick a different syntax, right? If we want to. Is everybody okay with this syntax, or is everyone like that's too much? Let's change it. Any votes, one way or the other?
I think it's fine.
Okay, cool. Then let's go back to the version of that we had. This is the part we're still worried about here. In fact, there's only, why do we even want map state to props? So I really don't have to have it, right? I could do completely without it if I wanted. Does anyone know why I would want these anyway? Actually, I can't.
You need it to make it a managed form or whatever they call it.
Right, exactly. And actually, now that I think about it, since we're using Redux, I do need this because we're could I do without?
I think if you had local state, you don't need it.
No, well, right. Then if I'm storing the form data in local state, this isn't going to do me any good. But I do want this to be a connected form. Okay, so I'm going to grab this and say, give me a value of this thing, whatever it is. So name is one of them. And now I have my props object. I'm going to have these 3 props, so now I can just grab them here, which is going to be name, start, date, and end date. And now I should be able to just reference them, name, start date, end date. Okay. And I probably want to grab more than this, right? I probably do want history because this is going to be a form submission. So I'm going to want to be able to update the URL if I successfully create a new trip. So I'm going to think ahead a little bit and grab that as well. Let's see if we need anything else or if we broke anything. And now let's watch if we didn't break anything, or if we did, we'll see why. Who wants to go where? Where are we going, folks?
I want to go to London.
Okay, nothing is working here. Great, create trip. Okay, and we didn't. Ooh, that's interesting. See that? We're getting a page refresh. That's not good. Okay, so handle change. Handle change. Oh, duh. This is not where I need to prevent default. I don't have a handle submit yet, so I still need a handle submit. So let's at least go ahead and cut that off so it doesn't refresh. Handle submit. And
Howard, is that a non-submit?
yeah, handle submit, on submit. Yeah. Oh, yes, thank you. You're exactly right. React would be upset about that. Handle submit. I don't know. I'm just calling it handle submit for whatever reason. And let's at least prevent defaults. Okay, cool. So now I should be able to click create trip without the page refreshing. Cool. But for some reason I still can't type in here. There's a problem going on. And let's figure it out. So let's look at props. And let's see if the props that I wanted came through. If I look at my new trip form, I've got my update new trip form, my name, my start date, and my end date. Those are the props I wanted. They look like they have the correct values. Okay, that's good news. So then And we know because we saw if in the console, we can see that 36 times the action was fired. That's how many times I typed in there. So that's good news. And let's see. This is, let's see, somewhere along the way here. Let's actually console log name and value. Let's see if we're getting those. Well, oh, this is a crazy URL. Okay, so it's picking up the name and the value. Okay. State name. Action dot form data dot.
In our reducer, are we adding the characters to the string, or?
We should be okay with that because the value coming through should have been picked up and brought back for full circle. So in other words, name, let's see what happens here. Name, start date, and end date, which I'm pulling from props, should come back around. And so like those should be picked up and put in. Somewhere in there we're having an issue. I do have to go. I didn't realize it's already 6:15. So I hate to put a hard stop on this without solving it, but we know exactly where to pick up, and we will come back next time strong, finish this up, and continue to build out the functionality on the front end. So sorry for abruptness, but I do have to pull the plug.
Okay, Howard, have